We are recording now. Okay, thank you for reminding. Okay, so we're going to cover these topics, and we know that we have a really short time to do this. And we're going to start, this is sort of the agenda, and we're going to start with some data. And the data that I'm going to show you is from Odessa College, and it's going to inform some of the strategies that we're going to share with you today. And what this, just quickly and briefly, Odessa College started with the Achieving the Dream initiative, and they did a survey, and they wanted to use the data for decision making. And it was pretty much the problem was that students were withdrawing, they were struggling in classes, even the ones they were taking, and they weren't completing. And so they looked at the patterns over time to see what factors were contributing to this gap. And that's what the study that I'm going to share with you very quickly with. So to get started, we're going to do sort of a chat storm. And there were several things they looked at. There were 6 things they looked at. So in the chat, out of these, just write what you think might have impacted the student success. Just going to do a really quick chat storm. So if you want to just write what you think, and write it in the chat and go ahead and hit enter. So as the chat is moving, I'm seeing time of day pop up and all of the above and more. Okay. Lot of ideas. Okay, so it actually, of these 3, it was none of them. So the study for subject, course, or time of day did not seem to matter. So here are 3 more. So here we go. In the chat storm, these are 3 more possibilities.
Kathleen, what is rigor referring to in this list?
Thank you. Rigor of the course material, of the content.
Thank you.
And I think it might be important to clarify which of these had the most impact, because we know that there may be some impact from all of these things, but which things were the most impact?
Does preparedness mean the teacher or the student?
Good question. The student. Okay, so this is sort of like a gotcha, but it was none of these in this study. So basically, they traveled through all different courses, different times of day, different, all those things that you saw, and none of it made a difference. What they discovered was that the connection with the class and the teacher is what improved the scores. That's how student success went up. And so it's very common, I think, for us to think about, helping students and what they're not prepared for. But our talk today is going to be about what we have control over and what we can do to reach out to our students and have them show up. So this is what the study basically discovered. And when they use some of the strategies we're going to share today, they had before 83% retention and completion. And then after they applied and implemented some of the strategies, it went up to 95%. And this was regardless of gender, age, race, or Pell State grant. So that was what they discovered. And quickly, a couple of the things that came into being were the 4 connections that I think some of you have heard, and TILT, which we know in assignment design that we have done a lot of that work at North, and you all have done a lot of that work at North. And so we just wanted to touch on that. And again, you'll have these slides to look at. But the 4 connections were these 4 things that had all to do with what we as instructors can do and how we connect with our students. And the biggest one is the practice, the paradox, is communicating your expectations and being flexible. So these fork connections and even tilt are strategies, and they work in parallel with the things that we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, so as we're thinking about why students might not be showing up and or why they might be sending us lots of emails because things might be difficult for them to understand or find, these are things that we call a problem of practice. And a problem of practice is something where you see a pattern of behavior or experience amongst your students, and it's pretty consistent. Because when we see those problems of practice, that indicates a place that we have the ability to grow, either help our students grow their skills or grow our skills in meeting the students better in their needs so that we can support them in understanding and in engaging them. So we're going to look at a couple of different problems of practice, and then we'll discuss a few strategies for how to address each of these. And these are all related to kind of helping to engage students in showing up to class, and then also hopefully helping us to decrease our workload for kind of repetitive questions or things that kind of bog us down. One of the pieces of feedback I've heard a lot from faculty is, oh my gosh, students are sending me emails all the time. And so I want us to think about, if you're getting an email from more than 2 or 3 students, or you're getting the same email every quarter, how can you build things into your course that address that ahead of time, if possible, so that we're kind of meeting our students with that just-in-time information that we know they're going to consistently be asking for. All right, we can go ahead and then.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Kathleen.
I was going to say the last point for asking for assistance and support is, how are we helping our students learn how to do that and not assume that they do know how to do that.
Right. So there might be ways that we can scaffold into our course to connect students with resources that they're not quite aware of or don't know how to utilize. And I think in the online environment, modeling for students and helping to expectation set with them is even more important than in face-to-face, because most students have had a lifetime of face-to-face interactions through which to learn social dynamics about how to engage around support. And very few students, particularly students who might be in older generations and haven't been as practiced in using technology for education, they might not know how to navigate those online systems. All right, so the first one we're going to look at here is show up strategies. These are strategies that help students show up. And I wanted us to reflect first and foremost here on, is it essential for your class for students to come to, let's say, a virtual class? Why or why not? Why would it be essential for them to come to a face-to-face class? Why or why not? And then within that, I'm just going to give you a moment to contemplate for your courses, what do you think makes it essential, or do you think it's essential for your students to show up for those? And if you would like to share any of your thoughts in the chat about that.
You can also unmute yourself if you'd like.
We do have a large group though, so let's make sure that we be mindful of the time, because we do have, unfortunately, a very short time for this presentation. We'll get some time in breakout rooms to chat more too.
So part of the self-reflection is really the focus on what we have control over as instructors. What can we do? It is easy, and sometimes we do need to vent, like, well, the students just aren't coming, or, you know, making it a student problem rather than let's move off of that and think about how are we structuring our course for the virtual class, and let's see what we can do. So that's the point of these reflections, is to bring it back to what we have control over and our own professional development.
Yeah, and I see some folks saying things like watching videos doesn't do the same thing as interacting, and I think that's a great point. So you want to think really specifically about what are those essential things that you need to do in class. and how are you communicating that to students? So that gets us into thinking about the practice part. So as we're thinking about students not showing up, one of the things that I really like to do is get feedback from my students. And I know a lot of us are doing that in various ways. And I want us to think about feedback from students in similar ways that we think about assessment of students, which is to say that there are formative assessments that we're doing along the way in terms of learning, and then there are summative assessments that come at the end. And I think it's super important for faculty to be getting formative feedback from your students. So as you're going through the quarter, finding out how things are going, because each cohort of students will be slightly unique in terms of how they're engaging with course content. And so I really encourage people to think about creating something like a virtual feedback box. This could be something simple like a Google form that is just linked into your Canvas course. And anytime students have feedback, they can share it anonymously there. That's one way that I have navigated it. And in my weekly meetings, I share the link again and remind students, hey, if you wouldn't mind, just pop on today and let me know how things are going. And I encourage them to give me positive feedback, negative feedback, neutral feedback, not just reaching out when something's not working, because it's just as important to know what is working as what isn't. And so surveying your students to understand why they're not showing up to class can really help you out. One piece of information I got from one of these formative feedback surveys is that students let me know that they weren't sure that the class times were required because through COVID, different faculty have handled what's in the course schedule in terms of their day and time that they're meeting differently than what was actually recorded in the class schedule. And so that's created a lot of confusion for students that there's inconsistency there, and it's understandable why they feel that way. So then that brings us to thinking about clarity and expectations, which connects to the tilt model that we'll talk briefly about later on. So when we're thinking about course design, we have to think about, are we being clear? Are we setting clear expectations for students about why it's important for them to come to class? And more so than just setting an expectation, have we thought about whether we're giving them something of value in class? And I don't mean this to sound disrespectful, because obviously we're sharing knowledge, whether we're lecturing or we're doing activities or all of these things, those are all important. But for students, are we giving them value that they couldn't get from working through the material on their own? And how are we helping them to see that value so that they prioritize showing up if that's something that's necessary for our class?
So I wanted to jump into and mention that a great survey that is really helpful at the beginning of the quarter is to survey your students and ask them, is there anything that might impact their learning? So that you have it. It's a way of getting to know your students. And oftentimes, I mean, whatever they're comfortable sharing, you know, you make it safe for them, but you will learn, I learned lots of things about my students that would not have come up otherwise, and that I could remember throughout the quarter and touch base with them. So we're talking about, you know, not just the beginning, but also how you continue through. And as far as clarity of purpose, to go back to the virtual class that that some of you are doing, where they have to show up online at a certain time, I think if you're going to record it and share it back, it's going to be really important for you to think about and share with the student. If you're going to record it, why do they need to be there? Because they can watch it on their own time, and that's the beauty of asynchronous. So if you have a synchronous class, why do they need to be there? So there's a lot of strategies for doing a lot of activities in the virtual classroom. We're not going to have time to cover all of them, but some of it is that they watch the video before, and then you're there, and you can do, as you know, breakout rooms. They can do individual work off camera, like away from Zoom, and then come back a half hour with something that they've done. There's a lot of activity that should probably happen. Otherwise, if you're recording a video for class and you're also there and you're doing the same thing, they might not show up because they could watch the recording. So it's just thinking about that. And as far as Canvas tools, and you know, the clarity of purpose, which I just explained, is you can also check to see where your students are. If you don't know, please contact eLearning, but you can go to the people page in Canvas. You can see when they last logged in. You can see how long they were there, although that's not really great data because they could forget to log out. But you could see when they logged in. You can check with them on the people page. If you click their name, you can email them right away. So there's tools to use where you can just touch base with them. So there's more than this, but we wanted to touch on a few of those. And now,
Yeah, and I just wanted to pop into the chat real quick before we finish that slide, Kathleen. Here's an example of a mid-quarter, more extensive feedback survey that you could consider that gets at some of that community and connection piece. This was shared with me by Melissa Grinley, who did a workshop on this last year. And if you click on the link, you can actually make a template and then edit it to your own purposes if you wanted somewhere to start. Thanks, Kathleen. So another big piece, faculty workload is kind of ballooned. I don't know about y'all, but for me during COVID, I feel like I'm doing a lot more. Maybe other people are having a different experience, but I feel like I have to engage with my students a lot more intentionally to keep that student engagement up. And part of the workload balloon has been lots of correspondence from students. So I had to figure out early on, how do I manage so much correspondence? Can I simplify things and make it easier so that I'm not wading through a million emails every day? So here are some things that worked for me that you might try. So I created a question and answer discussion forum for all general course questions. And in the first couple of weeks of class, students are going to email me directly because that's what they're accustomed to doing. And so I have to be kind of strong in those first few weeks and say, thanks so much for this question. This would be appropriate on the Q&A discussion forum. And I either have them post it, or if I'm feeling nice, I post the answer to the question in the Q&A discussion forum and direct them to find it there. And so through practice, as you get more students going there, they'll tend to start looking in the Q&A discussion forum. And if I know I've answered a specific question for a student and another student asks me about it, I tell them, oh yeah, go to the Q&A discussion forum and search this term and you can find the information you're looking for. And so with a little simple training over the first couple weeks, students will be getting on board with that. Kathleen, I also noticed there's comments coming through in the chat. Are you monitoring those just in case anything comes up? Cool, great. Thank you so much. And another piece of it is building in that student-to-student support. And we'll talk about other resources outside of the instructor and other students as well a little bit later. But a huge part of learning is that peer-to-peer mentorship or that zone of proximal learning. So when you get students who are all kind of at various levels, but close-ish to each other, maybe in terms of their understanding of a topic, they can actually help each other by filling in gaps and pieces and learn better than they could on their own. This is something we know from scientific research. So how do we cultivate in the online environment where students don't necessarily know how to make friends or make a study group in an online class? We have to create some more scaffolding there to help that happen, where students don't necessarily know how to navigate those social dynamics, especially online. So some of the things are, I encourage students to answer questions in the Q&A forum, or if a student shares a cool tip or trick with me, I ask them to share it in the Q&A forum. And that way students start getting in there, and pretty soon they're answering each other's questions. And I just check in once a day and make sure, or I check in a couple times a week, or you can set your Canvas notifications to tell you when a new discussion post happens so that you don't have to check it unless you get that notification in your email. And I just check in and make sure that they've given each other accurate information, add any edits or suggestions if I need to. But after about 4 or 5 weeks, for the most part, the Q&A discussion forum runs itself. And that's cut down on a lot of questions for me.
And I would also recommend in those first couple of weeks that you are present in that Q&A discussion forum. And it doesn't mean that you have to answer everything, but that part of that connection is that students feel that you're there. It's not, you can create it. It doesn't mean that they will come, right? But if you guide them there and then you are there prompting it, for instance, sometimes you can just say, hey, does anybody know the answer to this? And wait and see if someone else will answer it, so that in your modeling that you are also training them to help each other. So, I mean, it's the same with groups. If you form a group, it doesn't mean they know how to interact inside the group. So I highly recommend that. And that is inserting your presence, and that is part of the connection. If you do an introduction, if you want students to introduce themselves, I highly recommend you do your first introduction so that you model how it's done, and that you also share. If you had a discussion that said, why are you taking this course? If you model why you're teaching the course, it gives another way for you to share your passion, your interest in there with students. And we are talking about that kind of connection and relationship building. And so that will also help what Caroline was mentioning with the Q&A, the cultivate the student to student support. And again, touching base, you can use announcements for all class discussions. And again, I would say to reduce individual emails, to make a page in your course with, these are the tools we're using Canvas, because we don't all use the same ones. And so if you had a page that said announcements, I'm going to use announcements to answer, whatever it is, a way that you want to use it, Q&A discussion forum, and the reason why you're using it. And it's a page in Canvas. So they're very clear, the tool you're using, why you're using it, and what your expectation is on one page. It's very, very helpful. And so you can message them with announcements, through the people page, with gradebook messaging. There's a lot of ways to do that, to stay in touch and have that regular connection with students.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kathleen. And just to wrap up that student to student support piece, also consider creating a discussion board or a space in your Canvas course, if it's asynchronous, or time within class, where students can get together and talk about creating study groups. So I scaffold this by creating essentially like a want ad discussion where people say what days and times they're available, what modalities they're comfortable with in terms of study groups, whether they want to do it via Zoom or phone or whatever. And they can also talk about their learning style and what works best for them. So students can self-select study groups to hang out and work together on things.
I'm sorry, Caroline. I was going to answer some stuff from the chat.
Sure. Let me finish one last thought and then I'll turn it back over to you. With the Canvas tools, I did want to highlight one thing that Kathleen had suggested, which she just spoke of briefly, which is that within the grade book for any assignment, you can select a drop-down menu from the top of that assignment in the grade book, and you can message any student who. So I use this tool a lot if I want to sort of let students know that they missed an assignment. With online classes, I notice students do this more. And so what I'll do is after the due date, I'll go in and I'll message any student who hasn't submitted the assignment and just say, hey, I noticed you didn't submit this. Is everything going okay? Do you need help? And I remind them of what my late policy is so that they're aware of it, right? So that way you can send an email to 8 people who forgot to do it instead of individual ones. And that can be a really great way to let students know that you care and that you're paying attention. Sorry, thanks. Go ahead, Kathleen.
That's all right. And so Olga said that she uses the question and answer discussion that works really well. And Heidi had a good question. It's like, if I type in, does anyone know the answer? I might as well just write the answer. So yeah, don't use that one if that seems too time consuming. But again, the philosophy behind it is to promote students helping each other. And you don't need to do it all the time, but develop some strategies around getting students used to going in there and doing the work with each other. So yeah, it might save you time to just answer them. But in the long run, it won't, because you'll be answering them all the time for the rest of the quarter. So that was that idea. And can the Q&A be on the Canvas discussion board? Yes, it can. And some people pin it. So yeah, okay. I'm gonna move on to the next slide.
You can tell that we had a really hard time trying to fit this into 50 minutes. So thanks for your patience while we kind of try and cram a lot of ideas in there. Okay, so looking at the last section that we're going to look at for a problem of practice is a lot of times students don't actively seek support. So what I want us to reflect on is, what are your assumptions about what students already know how to do in terms of finding resources to be successful in the course? So a lot of times we talk about students being college ready or prepared, and the reality is oftentimes that skill set that people are assuming a college ready student will have, they were never formally taught anywhere. And it also depends on the social capital that those students had access to in their social networks. So to even the playing field a little bit and make it more accessible to everyone, I think it's important for us to help cultivate those success skills with our students to the extent that we can within our courses. So one thing is to encourage students' resourcing ability. So essentially scaffolding into your course ways for them to get connected with resources that they might not be aware of or they might not know how to connect with. So this could be something like creating an assignment where you ask students to go to the tutoring center and meet a tutor. And do that in the first or second week of the course, and then have them reflect and write a short reflection on that experience. Another thing might be that I have a student resource module within my getting started materials at the beginning of the quarter. I might also remind students of specific resources at specific times in the quarter. So in some classes, I have a research project. And so at the point that they're a couple weeks out from needing to turn in a bibliography or an outline, I remind them that they can go to the Page One Writing Center to get help with that they can go to the library to get help with finding resources and making citations. So think critically if there are pieces in there that you can help encourage students and build that throughout the quarter. So those are, yeah, Kathleen, did you want to add anything there?
Yeah, I was going to say that we, e-learning with faculty input, created a student support and resource module in Commons. So you don't have to create it. It's all there. It has links that connect them to the campus. It has Canvas videos for the basic stuff, and you don't have to recreate it. You can also, import it into your course and take out what you don't want, or add what you want to, but it's there. So you can use as is and customize or customize. So there's a lot of things that we already have, so you don't have to create it. And it's, I think, unrealistic, because I know I don't do this. Somebody gives me a syllabi, I might not go look at it again. So during the quarter, to refer them back to things, especially if you make a syllabus that they can download and put on their computer. If you have a table of contents, then they can search in the syllabi easier. So there's all kinds of ways to make it easier and to help students find things. And I would say probably another strategy is every week in your have an overview page, and so that you can have a little video and remind students, just touch base. Hey, by the way, don't forget about the student resource module if you have any questions. Just reminders as you go through the quarter.
Great, thanks, Kathleen. And I think we're getting ready to go to a breakout room for a little bit, which, oh, we have to get this part in. Okay, so we may not make it.
No, I'm not expecting you all to read this. I just want to show you that one of the strategies is creating very clear instructions for assignments. And so these are questions for students, and you can go to our online course design class, and you can download this and share it in your class for your students. This will really help students know how to talk to you when they don't understand the assignment. So it will help frame the conversation. So it does take some courage, I think, as an instructor, to put this in there, because if you give this to them, they may ask you these questions, but it will help focus them so that they have a place to start with you. And if you share this with them, it also lets them know that you want them to come and ask you questions. And again, we're going to be sharing this, but that download for students is in the online course design and teaching strategy. Canvas course. If you haven't gone there, there's tons of information in there and a lot of strategies that we talked about today. So I just wanted to share that really quickly with you.
Thanks so much, Kathleen. And while I go over the breakout rooms, Kathleen, would you mind adding to the Google document that we're going to share out, because we have a much larger group than I anticipated? Could you repeat the rooms so that room 1, 2, and 3 are repeated for room 4, 5, and 6? So we'll have a total of 6 rooms.
Oh, I think you can go in and do the breakout rooms, can't you?
I mean in the Google document, just so
I
that
see.
they have their own
I
space.
got it. I'm going to go there
Yeah.
and do that now.
Cool. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. And so we'll just have a little bit of time to chat in breakout rooms, because what I've learned from my students, I think also sometimes applies to faculty, which is the best learning often happens when we get to talk through our individual challenges with our colleagues and get ideas. So I want to give some time for folks to chat through for the next 10 minutes or so. And what we're going to have you reflect on here is pick kind of one of the group strategies that we will be that we've just discussed that you'd like to go in more depth on. So thinking about whether, and I'm sorry, Kathleen, because I know you're doing something at the same time.
Yeah,
Would it be
sorry.
possible for you to advance the slide?
Yeah, hold on. I lost it. Hold on a second. I don't know why.
I know, always losing stuff on Macs.
I am.
If you go to the launch pad,
Yeah, hold
you
on.
might be able to find it there. Thanks so much. Or if you stop share, I could pull
Yeah,
it
I
up.
might have to, because here we go. No,
Perfect.
that's not it. Are you not seeing it still? Let me go back. I'll go back and share again. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
I got it. I
got
got it. Mhm.
But I don't think anybody else does.
Well, I'm
Oh,
sharing it now. I just was pulling it up. Thanks.
thank you.
Okay, so so the room 1 and 4 will be show up strategies. Room 2 and 5 will be decrease individual emails. And room 3 and 6 will be assistance and support. So we're going to offer you the opportunity to select where you want to join. And Kathleen's going to share a link for the Google document in the chat. So just take a moment once she drops that in there to make sure that you can open it. And you're just going to introduce yourself, share a strategy verbally in the shared doc that you'd like to implement, either something we talked about today or a different idea that's shared within your group. And maybe just take a minute to discuss how you envision implementing it. We'll just want to be mindful to provide time for everybody. So you'll probably have about 90 seconds to 2 minutes per person to share out before we call people back to end up the session. So if you're able to, is the Google Doc in there? Everybody able to open it? So if you can open the Google Doc, give me a thumbs up, so I know everybody's able to open it and able to edit within it. Make sure we got the editing permissions right. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and set up those breakout rooms. And I apologize, I stopped sharing. I should have left that up. Just a reminder, you can pick room 1 or 4 for show up strategies, 2 or 5 for decrease individual emails, and 3 or 6 for assistance and support. We're hoping to get maybe like 4 or 5 people for a breakout room. All right, here we go. And if you have any trouble joining the room, just let me know and I can manually put you into the correct room. Just let me know if you're having any trouble getting into the room.
I was afraid
I haven't been asked to join a room.
Yeah, so if you go to your Zoom toolbar, and it may just depend on whether you've updated recently, Do you see breakout rooms anywhere on there? If you click on it, then it should be, yep, cool.
Got it. Thank
You
you.
got it.
Not sure how to, oh, I'll just join.
Yep, and it looks like room 5 and room 6 could use some more folks if anyone's looking for a place to go.
Well, there's a lot of people. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so rooms 5 and 6
going.
and 3. So people are kind of moving around and figuring it out.
Yeah.
A lot of times people tend to go to the first rooms and not the last rooms.
Room
When-
5 needs some people. Tony's in there by herself at the moment. So maybe I will visit, see if.
Yeah, do you want to pop in there?
I will.
And then I'll stay here and help manage things. If you wanted to, you could pause the recording.
I think that you have that ability now.
The recording?
Yeah, because, oh, here we go.
No,
got it.
I don't
got
have
it,
the
I got it.
recording.
Okay, I paused it.
Cool.
I thought I would lose my PowerPoint. Thank you for the save.
Yeah, no worries. We're working together. And it looks like Tony just added herself to room
Yeah.
2.
She just moved. Yeah, they're good.
All right, great. I'll stop share for now. So we'll give them probably about 7, 8 more minutes.
Okay, let me go find mine.
Oh, sorry, I just missed that there was something going on in the chat. I think Paul trying to figure out how to get into room 5. So I'll go ahead and put you in room 2, which has the same topic. Paul, sorry that I missed that. Here we go.
So you can see my screen now, right?
Yes.
Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's go.
All right. Whew, we jammed through a lot. I wasn't sure if we were going to make it to breakout rooms, but we made it. And I think for the share out, I'm just going to ask people if they'd like to share out in the chat, or, point them to the Google document. Or if we wanted to, we could take time for the share out and just let folks know that it's okay if they need to leave
Well,
early and
It's
that
12:42 right now. So.
right. And I think we're going till 12:50. So I think I don't know if you want to ask them to review the Google Doc on their own and end on time, or do you want to let folks know that it's okay if they need to leave and then actually do the wrap up and go a few minutes over?
I think we should do the wrap. I think we should do the wrap up, and then we can come back and do a share out if folks want.
Okay, great. I think that sounds awesome.
Did you time the breakout rooms, or do we need to?
Hi, Kathleen and Carolyn.
Hi.
Hi, Olga.
Yeah, I have trouble joining. I don't know, maybe I have an old system or something.
Which room would you like to go to?
I just will go to room number 6.
Okay, perfect. I'll put you there.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me know. Thank you. All right, so it should be inviting you now. Okay, great.
So, yeah, no, I think it went fine. I got a little bit discombobulated because I thought that there were some things I had my name by, and you just kept talking, so I let you do it. So that's fine.
Oh, sorry. Which ones were those?
Well, it was like course design, and on a couple slides when we had talked about, you would do that, and then I would start talking about course design, but you just kept going, so I didn't stop you, but
Oh, my bad. Maybe I just missed that note. Mhm.
Well, when we were planning it out, so that it would be a little like give and take. So sorry, and I interrupted you a couple of times. I just didn't know where to try to fit in what I wanted to say.
Sure,
So,
sure.
and it's, it's just a difference. I'm just, that's why I like to plan it out a little bit, not
Mhm.
exactly everything we're gonna say, but just like, okay, that's gonna be your part. So go ahead and I'll add to it if you don't want to. So,
Okay, yeah, I think I just got that confused with the students actively seeking assistance and support where we were doing the both back and forth. So I think we just had different formats for the different slides, and I think that's where I got confused because I
it
thought
was,
some of them
it
were
was
both.
actually the first slide. It was the first one that we did, but we can talk about it later. It doesn't matter. It's my last one. And it's okay. I just went with it. I didn't know where you were going.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just meant that there were like the 3 slides that were the different problems of practice. And
Yeah.
on 2 of them, we were just kind of doing a both thing. And so I think on the 3rd one, I just thought that was a both thing also. So,
No, yeah, they all were both things, but we
Okay.
decided that you would talk about the reflection.
Mhm,
And then, well, we just planned it out. I was just going with what was on the slide, who was doing what. So,
sure.
yeah,
Okay.
but that's okay. You have a lot to say.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right. That's what we did. So like the show up strategies, you were gonna do the self-reflection and the survey, and I was gonna talk about course design and Canvas tools. You kept going, which was fine. And then,
Yeah, okay.
and the second slide too,
Kathleen, can we maybe
yeah.
decompress this later? Because I'm finding this a little,
Sorry.
it's taking me out of the session and I want to hear your feedback, but I can't really process it right now.
Okay, you're right. Sorry.
It's okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give people a 1-minute warning.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna go look at that document and see how it's gone. Room 3's adding stuff. They're the only ones. That's okay. They're talking, I'm sure.
So I see for considerations and resources, no one's on that. Would you like to take point?
On where?
The considerations and resources, I see neither of us are listed there. Would you like to take point on that slide?
I'm looking at that one.
It's kind of the wrap up slide.
Oh, I can start and then, yeah, sure. I'll start.
Sure.
And you can jump in.
Great, sounds
short.
good.
It's kind of short.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and close up the breakout rooms
Okay,
if you're ready.
I'm ready.
And then if you want to restart the recording, you can do that. If not, whatever feels good.
Okay, there we go. Oh yeah, thanks for reminding me. Totally forgot.
I always forget if I'm the one responsible for recording, so I always like to make sure to help us remember.
Oh, let's skip over this slide for now.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we can come back to it if people want to stay.
Yeah, and we can just address that. We'll get to the share out part at the end, but want to be respectful of time.
Wow. Okay, wow, that's interesting. Here they come. Hello, everyone.
Now I know what that feels like when you get thrown back into the session. I do that to students all the time, like, oh, wow,
Yeah,
Wakey, wakey.
it's always mid-sentence.
It's
Somebody's
always-
talking and it's always mid-sentence,
Oh.
like, yeah.
All right, well, welcome back. We do want to be mindful of time, so we're going to pause the share out and Kathleen's going to share some additional considerations and resources, and then we'll have a little time for share out if anyone wants to stick around.
Zoom recording. So we're gonna, yeah, so as Caroline said, if you want to stay after, we can share out from your groups. But these were just a couple of considerations that were wanted to share with you, is reflect on and intentionally incorporate the 4 connections. That really covers reaching out to students. So sharing this PowerPoint will have that information for you. And then reach out more frequently and also more substantively with your interaction. And I gave a resource, which is the online course design and teaching strategies. And there's a whole module on what that exactly means and how suggestions for giving feedback to students in a very intentional way. Not that, again, no disrespect, I'm sure you give feedback, but there's some great ideas and things to ponder with that. And also to always remember that we don't know what we don't know. So reach out to your colleagues, which I know you do, and the instructional designers and e-learning, because they are there. We are here. We're not just push a button in Canvas. We do read a lot, study a lot about pedagogy. And so there may be things that when we listen to what you'd like to do, that we can actually do brainstorming with you. And we're paid to do all that research. So we can really help you with that. So Caroline, did you want to say anything?
I think you did a great job of summarizing. Thanks, Kathleen. And at this time, I guess, because we do have other sessions starting about 10 minutes, I just want to be mindful if some folks needed a quick break. Thank you so much for coming. If anyone wants to stick around and feels like they have the time and the brain space for it, we can decompress a little bit about what folks discussed in the breakout room. But thank you all so much for coming and for investing this time in, continuing to grow your teaching practice. It's great to be in community with all of you.
Absolutely. And we will share out this PowerPoint. So.
Well, hey, Caroline, I just wanted to let you know that I plugged your next session in our breakout group.
Oh, excellent. Thanks, Kate.
Which is why Christine has in the chat, where can we find the online course design? Oh, no. Oh, that's a different one. Oh, yes. Sorry. There's the essential needs one too. I'm going to mute now.
And feel free, if anyone's hanging around, if you want to share out from your groups or you have any questions, we're still here. What time is your next one, Caroline?
Mine starts at 1, but they know that I might be a little late.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask when I'm, oh, no, I see it. Using the new essential needs student referral guide. Okay. Because I was like, the list I have, I didn't see it, but now I do.
There's so many offerings.
How do I send you the notes we took during our breakout session?
You can put them in that Google document that
Yeah,
Kathleen shared.
Yeah.
Kathleen can reshare the document, and theoretically you should be able to just edit and type your notes right in there.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so I did that, so you've got it now. Is that right?
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, you did it. Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay.
That's the beautiful thing about
question. Sorry, not trying to interrupt people.
Oh, okay. I see it there now. I see it. Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like room 3 and 4 gave input. I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. We were in group 6.
It didn't show up.
Did I need to do something else? Do I have to hit a save button or something?
No.
It should auto save.
It should auto save you.
Well, it depends. Did you download the document or did you edit it in the web browser? You have to edit it in the web browser, which if you downloaded it, then we wouldn't be able to see it.
I take that back. I take that back. I put it in room 3 notes.
You put it in room 3 notes.
Okay. I see it.
Put it in the wrong spot.
Do you
no, you're good because you talked about the same thing.
David, do you want me to move it to room 6? I can move it for you.
Okay.
Oh no, assistance and support. It's the same room.
It's the same topic. Yeah.
Same topic.
Okay, it can stay in the same topic. I'll clean that up anyway.
Okay.
I have a question that I'm wondering. I feel like the first week of class where there are so many, this is how you use things, this is how you sign on. I keep trying to come up with sort of a checklist that would help the students go through the steps independently. And I do often have like small assignments. Email your instructor through the message. I had one, I do things like if I want them to try to find their My Seattle or figure out their My Seattle College's login, I turn that into a little quiz. But I'm just wondering if there's a way, that it's like by week 1, you should do these 10 things. And they're all 10 things that have to do with like administrative, technology related topics. And one could be, I like the idea of come up with one question that you put in the Q&A, because I find that if they don't do it right off the bat, then it just sits there, growing cobwebs. So I'm just wondering if somebody's come up with a good way to just, here's your checklist for week 1.
Well, I guess for me, it depends on what your checklist is, right? Because every class is going to be different. My suggestion usually is in that first week, and I don't know what is important to you, Kirsten, right now, but just talking about this generally, is in the first week, they're going to use all the tools in Canvas that they're going to use all quarter. So it's low stakes. So if I'm using a discussion, if they have to upload an image, if they have to do a quiz, if they have, whatever they have to do, they get to practice it that first week so I can find out what issues there are. And I'm very transparent with that. And I tell them that, I said, not only are we doing this discussion forum to meet each other, but also it's a way for us to practice what you're going to be doing all quarter. So I give them that also, and that encourages them. So if there's any technical issues with those things, we can grab them right away. I don't know if that helps. But.
No, it does. And I guess I do that to a certain extent. And maybe part of the thing is that like this term, I finally learned how to use Starfish. And I've had one student, make an appointment with me through Starfish. And so what I need to do next term is somehow that becomes one of the little things that you do. And it's just a series of small assignments that you get points for. And they are low stakes. It is like introduce yourself, upload a picture of your pet or something. The biggest one is opening and copying a Google Doc and then sharing it so that I have access to it. That's usually one of the biggest hurdles. But.
So is it on faculty to teach students how to use Starfish, or can you have a guest come in?
I don't know.
You might be able to have a guest come in. It would be worth looking into. I apologize, Kathleen. I'm probably going to head out.
Okay.
I just realized that we hadn't coordinated one thing about the next meeting. So I'm going to pop in there early and see if we can get that done. Thank you so much.